Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Jesse Bayer here, Abundant Living Ecuador. And, I wanted to talk to you guys today, share my thoughts on safety in Southern Ecuador, in the Andes of Southern Ecuador. Now, when I talk about safety in the context of today's video, of course you include in that, your physical safety, right? Crime, for example. But I want to talk more broadly. We're living in very, very sort of turbulent times. I think more people, you just look at the whole sort of prepper phenomenon, right? I think more people on Earth right now are concerned about sort of the large picture, the big picture state of the world than I can't say than ever, but certainly in my lifetime. And you really have people redefining goals, values, lifestyles, what's important to them. And, this is what I went through in 2010, 11, 12, before I relocated to Ecuador in 2013. I went through a process of doing just that, of deciding, what is it I want in my life, for my life, and where is the best place in the world to do that, to experience that, as it relates to more than just economy or physical safety, which of course is important, but lifestyle. Where can I set myself and my family up for the long term that has the characteristics I want for my life. So, when I was looking at the world, back then, I was concerned about the dollar. I was concerned about geopolitical events. I was concerned about the debt markets. I was concerned about the value of assets. If we were to have an issue with the dollar, an inflationary situation, or a problem in the debt markets, if debt markets seize up, or if there's a problem in the monetary system, what happens, for example, to U.S. real estate prices? At the time, I had a couple of buildings in Brooklyn, in the States, in New York. As we know, the markets in the States, the real estate market, and many asset classes are completely driven by debt. Without the access to financing, prices would drop precipitously. So, you look at things like food supply and water supply and, community and neighbors and climate and nature and natural disasters. As you hear the birds making noise in the background. I'm here in Vilcabamba, of course, Vilcabamba, Ecuador. But, natural disasters, or otherwise, right? Man-made disasters, geopolitical events, wars, etc. So, these were things that were on my mind back then when I was looking at where in the world would I like to live, where do I want to take my family and live, and I think they're on a lot of people's minds now. So back then, right, I had a list. It included things like, I didn't want to be on a major fault line. I didn't want to be near a volcano. I didn't want sort of tsunami possibilities. I wanted a warm year-round climate. I wanted great soil and water and air. I wanted safety, ease of immigration, and perhaps most importantly, I certainly came to realize most importantly, a great community and a great culture where the values of where I was living were aligned with the things I care about, freedom, a little bit more natural way of living, a little bit closer to the earth, to my food and water supply, to the people around me, a little bit more, more human. And so, as I did my research, all on the internet from New York, I focused mostly on the Southern Hemisphere. 90% of the world's population is actually in the Northern Hemisphere. So I was interested more in the Southern Hemisphere. Most of the global powers are also Northern Hemisphere. Most of the nuclear power is also Northern Hemisphere. So I was interested more in Southern Hemisphere. And as I crossed off items from my, or as I compared items from my list against locations, I really settled on the Southern Andes of Ecuador. So I want to share some thoughts with you today about why this, for me, is really perhaps, one of the safest places on earth. And it's kind of funny saying that today with what's going on in the news with Ecuador. Ecuador is all over the international news right now for violence and cartel-related violence, organized crime-related violence. We've made lots of videos about that. I won't cover that too much today, but all of the things I just mentioned are A+ or close to it, are close to 10 out of 10 in this region. So there are no volcanoes where I live. There are no major fault lines where I live, and I'm in the Loja Vilcabamba region of Ecuador. Your climate in the area that I'm in is, your daytime highs are low 70s to mid 80s all year long. Your nighttime lows are, 60s normally. You can get a little cooler, a little warmer if you want, but you have a very stable, incredible year-round climate. Soil, air, water could not be better. It's just amazing. It's one of the things I'm so grateful about living here. Some of the lifestyle perks, the trips to the ease of access to nature, the trips to the river, just the nature in general is really incredible. The cost of living is phenomenal. Are there cheaper countries? Absolutely, but compared to the Western world, compared to the States, the cost of living here is just absolutely phenomenal. And so, it kind of checks the box on all those things really well. And then what I didn't understand when I moved here and came to understand over my first few years here, and I've grown to just tremendously appreciate here now about 10.5 years in, is the community aspect and the society aspect of life here in the La Sierra, in the mountains of Southern Ecuador. So what you have in Ecuador is you kind of have an old school culture, an old school society. You have, generally speaking, it's a much less mobile culture, society. So people don't move around as much. There's less mobility. As a result, you have these generational bonds and ties, right, that go back a very long way, which creates sort of this accountability to one another. People here are kind, they are polite, they are happy. And of course I'm generalizing, but that is such a high percentage of people fall into this category. They tend to be pretty formal. They roll with the punches. They're relaxed. They don't stress. They don't get angry. It's really remarkable. It's been good for my health. It's been good for my peace of mind. It's helped me to be less stressed out myself and to be just kind of a little less crazy, right? With kind of the life we grow up with in the States, it's very different. People here also take great pride in their name, their family, their community, their area, their city or town. That's a very beautiful thing. There's still real community here. People don't just know their neighbors, they have deep ties and bonds with their neighbors. There's some other things too that I think are worth mentioning. People here are incredibly resourceful. Supply chains and the supply chain is very, very simple here. It is not a complicated economy. It's an agrarian economy. It's a big exporter of food. Everybody here grows food. Food is not only abundant and cheap, it's so much so that there's a large surplus. And yet Ecuador also has the amenities, the modern amenities, the infrastructure necessary for a very comfortable life: roads, internet, ports, airports, etc. So it's not, you're not giving up that aspect either. And so, what does it look like, for example, back home, if things were to break down socially, monetarily, etc.? You have such a strong state back home in the States and other places, which you don't have the same strength here of the state. There's such a strong state, there's such a sort of militarized security apparatus, for better or worse, but you have that in the U.S. And you have very tight supply chains. You have, food is imported in large quantities, and the food that is grown in the U.S., for example, comes from just a few parts of the country in general. You have winter, and you have many less social ties and social bonds, and people are not resourceful in the same way, right? I think, in the 1950s, perhaps, people still knew how to fix things and build things, and that's much less now. Here, men, like Ecuadorian men, right? People here, males, are, all of them know how to do construction and work on cars and do agriculture and so on and so forth. And the level of ingenuity and resourcefulness is incredible. And at the same time, they care about one another. So, being in a place where you have those social bonds and those ties, and that sort of, lack of pressure with there not being concern about food or winter or heat or cooling, combined with sort of the heartfelt nature of people and the nature itself in the land. It's just a wonderful place to live. And I think, in the times we're in, it feels very safe in that way, right? It feels very secure. Now, I would say right now, as we speak on January 26th, 2024, there's more petty theft than you would find probably in the States, although that may be changing. You probably have to be a little bit more concerned about break-ins and things like that here than you would in most parts of the U.S. So, that exists as it relates to safety. But in terms of, as perhaps I look at the future and others may look at the future, there's just not a place I would rather be in the world, for my family, for my life, and for what, if we're looking at it from the standpoint of safety, where I would like to be, regardless of how things turn out in the world and what happens in overall events. Another thing that really adds to the stability and the safety of Ecuador, regardless of the environment going forward, is that Ecuador is not a debt-based economy. A large percentage of real estate transactions in Ecuador are still done in cash. Even when bank financing is involved, you have to put 30% down. You have high double-digit interest rates in many, in fact, in most occasions. People here are savers, right? Ecuadorians save money. They don't like borrowing. Not that they don't ever, but they don't like borrowing. And it's an economy, therefore, where asset prices, real estate in particular, are very stable. It's not subject to the booms and busts of the US market and other markets that are fueled by debt, that are debt-driven economies, and that drive asset prices as well, based on the debt market. So that's also something that's, really important to me. If those kinds of things go away, if financing were to go away, if there were to be hiccups in the financial markets, in the financial system, in the dollar, in the debt markets, in the vast majority of this country, life would go on as normal. Asset prices may even increase as people pile into, safety, as people look for safety in agricultural properties and places that have a lot of natural resources, where people can grow food and have a great year-round climate, so on and so forth. So that's really another element as well that factors into the equation. So I wanted to share that with you. If you guys have questions, please put them in the comments. We'd love to have a good chat there and answer any questions you have. Feel free to contact us or reach out to us at abecuador.com. We do have a ongoing Vilcabamba lifestyle retreats. If you're interested in checking out this area and learning everything about life here in Ecuador, it's a great way to do so. And I'll talk to you again soon. Take care, guys.
If you're interested in real estate properties, all of our property videos will now be uploaded on a different channel. Please click the link in the description down below.